you, Senator Rice. Senator Roberts.
Thank you, Madam Deputy President. As a servant to the people of Queensland and Australia, I support the government's changes to university funding. Firstly, though, we agree with the government's general thrust. Secondly, we want to go further to ensure responsibility among students and to reduce taxpayer load. Thirdly, we want to restore accountability and academic freedom in universities, to make our universities better so that our future students will emerge better. So let's get to the government's thrust. It reduces fees for courses that meet needs for future jobs and more practical courses like engineering, nursing and teaching. We support that. It will make these courses more affordable. It raises fees for humanities courses, and I'll explain later why that is so effective, because humanities people with graduates are not getting jobs right now. The government's thrust focuses taxpayer funds on needed skills, and that is good for our country. So the second point I wanted to discuss was that we need to go further to ensure responsibility among students and to reduce taxpayer load. The current HECS debt is $65 billion and growing rapidly. That's the outstanding HECS debt. With Australia's national debt now pushing $1 trillion, the repaid HECS money could be used productively. We believe that we need to reinstate the 10% discount for fees paid up front. Now, people who pay their fees up front, people who can afford university, do not need the concessional interest rate, and as things start, do not need to repay debt, do not start repaying debt until earning an annual income of $46,620. Financially, it is better value for the government and for taxpayers, and we do represent taxpayers, to have a loan paid up front at a discount than paid out over 10+ years. It takes on average about 10 years for a student to repay a HECS debt, and we need to reduce the threshold for repaying HECS debt based on data and fairness to students and fairness to taxpayers. Remember them? The people who are paying our salaries, the people who run this country. We need to limit student entitlement to 7 years full-time equivalent and stop people on fee-free university education with little or no chance of a job. Students cannot continue to live off the taxpayer forever. We've got to get job-ready graduates. We have a duty to protect taxpayers and to protect our nation, our community, as well as to protect students. The third area, restoring accountability and academic freedom in universities. Universities monitor student academic progress, and students who repeatedly fail, for example if they do not pass more than half of the subjects, should stop getting fee help. This removes a fee-free career for university students who keep failing. We also need students to be aware of what they're getting from taxpayers' money, and we need job-ready graduates. I can give you some examples of universities suppressing free speech. Dr. Peter Ridd was sacked from his position at James Cook University for being critical of poor quality reef science. He was fulfilling his duties as a scientist to challenge his colleagues, and he was sacked. And the recent Senate inquiry in Queensland vindicated him when academics admitted facts and data that revealed the Queensland State Labor government does not have the facts to support its recent reef regulations. Peter Ridd was correct. Professor Bob Carter, the late Professor Bob Carter, well known globally as a fine scientist, paleoclimatologist, he was prevented and hindered from speaking by James Cook University. And now just here, recently at the ANU, Dr. Howard Brady, a noted geologist and understands climate extremely well, was invited by the staff at the University of Queensland, at University ANU, to make a presentation on the impacts of the study of climate science and why it's gone wrong. ANU prohibited him, after the notice was sent out, ANU prohibited him from delivering that seminar. But here's a welcome sign from ANU. Professors and staff at ANU were so disgusted with the ANU's response that they joined together, and Dr. Brady will now be conducting his seminar later this month. And they've given him immense publicity internationally. He's received support from the University of Sydney staff, from the ANU staff, from other universities within Australia, and from overseas universities, including Princeton. The former High Court Chief Justice, Robert French, recommended in his government-commissioned review of free speech at Australian universities that academic freedoms be protected so data and research can be put forward. That's a scientist's responsibility. Justice French recommended that, as part of academic freedom, academics should be allowed to, quote, to make lawful public comment on any issue in their personal capacities. Universities allow, indeed encourage, far-left Marxists, anarchists, socialists and communists to speak freely on university campuses, yet do nothing to stop these same fascists shutting down lecturers with whom these fascists disagree. In not protecting free speech of all voices, universities are complicit in the suppression of speech. Now, I went to the University of Queensland, where I got a Masters in Business Administration, and I'm very proud to say that the Dean of that university just recently, a few years ago, welcomed students with a note saying there are no free spaces, no safe spaces at the University of Chicago. Basically, he was saying, suck it up, discuss and debate freely. That's what universities were about. That's what they need to get back to being about. And recently, I was listening with a university vice-chancellor, a regional university vice-chancellor, who subtly admitted to me that the capital city unis have fouled their nests because of their craving for political correctness and their fear of upsetting people. The media reported Professor Reid as saying he supported, quote, any moves to improve the disastrous situation at the moment where academic freedom of speech effectively does not exist. At present, universities are applying their vague codes of conduct on top of academic freedom of speech. And this means academics have to be respectful and collegiate. Any robust debate, as he points out, is likely to seem disrespectful to somebody. So that is a way of shutting down debate. That's how universities that fear academic freedom or are too gutless to ensure freedom suppress academic freedom and free speech. And we need practical graduates. And my 3 years underground as a coalface miner aftergraduate was priceless for me. So I left university and then I realised I'd better go and learn something. So I worked underground at the coalface for 3 to 4 years. We also need to remember that in addition to practical experience, universities are not for everyone and should not be for everyone. We need to rekindle trades, rekindle the TAFE, rekindle apprenticeships, and Senator Hanson has been leading the way in Australia on rekindling apprenticeships, and the government has taken her policy 2 years ago and implemented it. We need to also stop political correctness at TAFE and get it back on track. So we're very pleased then to see that the government is undertaking a major shake-up of university fees in a bid to steer students towards fields where there are skill shortages and jobs for the future. And it's better for students after graduation. University graduates have been slamming universities for meaningless degrees that have left students with dismal career prospects and crippling debt. While a university degree leads some students to a bright future, for others it currently leaves them with nothing but debt and disappointment. Now, I want to take a break here because I want to answer some comments from Senator Murray Watt. His comments disrespect the university students and universities, and his fabrications require me to respond. He said that since they have entered Parliament, Senator Hanson and Senator Roberts line up with the LNP to pass legislation. Well, let's see who lines up with the LNP. Let's indeed have a good look at this. On climate policies, Liberal and Labor are similar. They believe the nonsense. On energy policies, Liberal and Labor both believe in a renewable energy target, both believe in stealing farmers' property rights, as they have both done. Liberal and Labor both believe in gold-plating the networks. Liberal and Labor both believe in a national electricity market that has turned into a national electricity racket. One Nation opposes all of those. On water, the Turnbull-Howard 2007 Water Act is supported by Labor. Now some Liberals are waking up, and some Nats are waking up. One Nation opposes the 2007 Water Act and the destruction it's caused across the Murray-Darling Basin. Electricity price, as I've just said, Labor and Liberals support the renewable energy target. They support subsidies to the intermittent, unreliable energy sources of wind and solar. They support privatisation. They support the national electricity market, which is a national electricity racket. Both are anti-coal in their actions. The only difference between Liberal and Labor is that Liberals are positive in their talk, but not their actions. Labor and Liberal have been killing our fishing industry. Foreign ownership, Liberal and Labor have sold out Port of Darwin and other companies and water rights in our country. Record debt, state and federal, Labor and Liberal join. Infrastructure, a lack of infrastructure and neglect. Taxes, foreign multinationals, tax-free. Labor and Liberal have enabled that over the last 6 decades. I could go on, but you can get the point that Liberal and Labor are actually closer than One Nation and Labor, One Nation and the LNP. The second point Senator Watt talked about was One Nation candidates out there masquerading, these are his words, as the people who are standing up for battlers in our community. Well, let's go through some of our candidates. Michael Blaxland at Gympie, Sharon Lose at Maryborough, Sharon Bell. Now here's a good example. Sharon Bell, a real fighter. She's a working-class girl who's come up and is now working in the construction industry. She is fighting the member for Bundamba, who was parachuted in from a job, from a union position in Melbourne, parachuted into Queensland outside the Bundamba electorate, and then 2 months before the recent election, by-election, he moved into Bundamba, and he's doing nothing. And what did the Labor Party do? They got rid of Joanne Miller, a first-class, true Labor Member of Parliament, and replaced her with this blow-in parachuted in from Melbourne. Then I could talk about Deb Lawson, Christine Keys, who wants to restore solid education, Wade Rothery, a coal miner in Keppel, Torin O'Brien, Steve Andrew, an electrician who's got such a good rapport with the people of Mirani in his electorate because he is a Member of Parliament. These are the types of people that One Nation is very, very proud to say stand with us. And they are fed up with the tired old parties, both Liberal and Labor, and so is an increasing number of voters. And that's why these candidates are standing up, because they're sick and tired of the Liberal Nationals and sick and tired of Labor. They have been abandoned by both the tired old parties. Labor and the LNP actually make battlers. Senator Watt talked about us as standing up for the battlers. That's correct. And the reason we have to do that is because the Labor Party is creating battlers. It's taking the middle class and making them poor. It's taking the poor and making life tougher for the poor. Look at your energy policies. Look at your agriculture policies. They are coming to One Nation because people need someone in this parliament who stands up for them, and someone in state parliament who stands up for them. And Senator Hanson, and this is something Senator Watt has said, Senator Hanson and her party come down to Canberra, they vote with the Liberal and National parties. It's not us that have the policies that are the same. It's not us, it's you guys. Let's then have a look at what Senator Watt said. We've seen it, he raised pensions. Senator Hanson and I have advocated for an increase of pensions. We're advocating and got solid policies for decreasing cost of living. That's more important, because to a pensioner, the cost of energy is a highly regressive tax and burden. Then Senator Watt raised apprenticeships. Senator Hanson introduced the apprenticeship scheme into this parliament, and the government has taken it.
Senator Roberts,
yes.
I have been listening carefully, and you certainly started off talking about the higher ed bill, and I think I've given you enough time to respond to other senators in this place, but I do remind you the bill before us is the higher education bill. Thank you.
Madam Deputy President. I'm simply responding clearly to everything that Senator Watt has said, because his comments misrepresented the facts.
The bill before us is the higher education bill. That's the bill you need to be responding to. There are other opportunities to respond to other senators. Thank you.
Certainly. Well, in response, Madam Deputy President, I want to comment that this bill, with One Nation's amendments that the government has agreed to, protects students, protects taxpayers, protects universities, protects Australians, and protects Australia. Because education is vital to the future of our country. Education is vital as a source of foreign income. And while Labor is off with the rainbow-coloured unicorns on this and many other topics, we are very, very proud to speak for the battlers and to support the battlers.
Order. Order.
Students must be equipped educationally for a career in and beyond the COVID-19 economy, with its focus on digital technologies, robotics, automation, science and health services. Real jobs.
Thank you, Senator Roberts. Your time has expired.